Hey everyone, it's episode 3 of Veterans Voices with Joe and SteveO. Today we have a big surprise. We're really excited to have the Motor City Madman, the Nuge, the All-American feedback hero, Uncle Ted Nugent himself, joining us today.
And we also have his beautiful wife joining us as well, Shemane Nugent. The two of them are going to talk about their support of the troops, how they support veterans, some of their philanthropy. Shemane has some great advice on fitness, healthy living, and healthy eating. So we're very excited to hear from her today, her and Uncle Ted Nugent.
Yeah, and Ted's also going to be talking a little bit about music, and hopefully he enjoyed it as much as you're going to enjoy it, and they'll be back to talk some more with us about some other subjects of interest. So welcome to episode 3 of Veterans Voices with Joe and SteveO.
I mean, if you're invited into that sacred campfire, you gotta feel pretty confident that you represent the shit kicker pulse of freedom demanders, not just freedom celebrators, but freedom demanders that you witnessed in my beloved birth state of Michigan yesterday, where freedom demanders stood up and had their own little Detroit, Boston, Michigan tea party. So that spirit of defiance and constitutional self-evident truth celebration is alive and well. So a salute to you guys, and especially all the military and families that are watching. God bless the warriors who provide security and peace in the American dream. You know how sincere I am about that.
Absolutely. And we appreciate all of the support and how you support our veterans out there and all of our service members. We've seen your work with the USO and the tours you've gone on, and it's really remarkable work. So we are so honored to have you speaking with us today, and we really do appreciate it.
You bet, and I will shut up so that you can speak. But I get really fired up about this stuff because I live that freedom every day here on our Texas ranch. And without freedom, I guess I'd be like a citizen of Cuba or England or something. So I really celebrate it with mucho gusto.
And we do have the most powerful military in the entire world, and everyone knows that. So I mean,
we have the most powerful guitar player in the world too. Because I was never in the military, but I've always been militant, I think. Plus, I never served officially, but according to Marcus Luttrell and Rob O'Neill and Gary O'Neill, the author of American Warrior, this guy killed more evil people in Vietnam than maybe anybody. I didn't serve officially. I was Superman when I was 19 and I had my draft physical. I have a feeling that if I would have been drafted, we'd have won the damn war. And I don't mean to be facetious, but I understand that stuff, and I was embraced by the Vietnam heroes. In fact, I don't mean to just carry on, but I'm really good at it. I shared a campfire in New Mexico with a survivor of the Bataan Death March. And just think of how powerful that fortifies your understanding that freedom ain't free, but also how it breaks your heart that so many Americans don't even know what the Bataan Death March was. Yeah. So that's the role that I play, educating people that freedom ain't free and the blood and guts and human sacrifice that brought us here.
So, to bring it over to current events, how is your quarantine?
Tell them, Shemane, our quarantine is pretty damn good. We don't mean to be spoiled, but we are.
We're actually busier than ever doing, being able to connect with people like you. So this is great, this technology, and our lives have really not changed much at all. We've always lived off the land. We've been hunters, and Ted fishes and traps, and we don't need to go into town. I mean, we miss a couple of things, going out to restaurants and meeting our friends. But other than that, nothing's changed for us.
And we really salute those restaurateurs. My son Fleetwood and his beautiful wife Danielle had the top restaurants in Brooklyn, New York, and Staten Island, New York. And so the hit of this pandemic and shutdown of the quarantine has hit the Nugent family like everybody. So we pray harder than ever. We pray more fervently and try to be more efficient in our prayers for our fellow man, not just our fellow Americans, but people around the world. The beauty of my Facebook electronic campfire, my global Facebook intergalactic global communication campfire on Facebook. You should all go there as often as possible. I'm there, a dozen times a day. I hear from people from every imaginable corner of the globe, from Kenya and Ireland and Belgium and France and Germany and Spain. And they all love me because I reek of that American middle finger, freedom, defiance, we the people, don't tread on me. In fact, most of the guys say, don't Ted on me. The thing is that we have always been hunters, fishermen, and trappers. So we don't have to scramble for food, water, fish, guns, ammo. Believe me, we got the guns and the ammo. I'm down to my last 300,000 .223 rounds. And so we not only live it, but we promote it. And I know that we're not just speaking to military heroes right now. We're speaking to people who cherish that spirit of the United States military. So the pandemic is bringing a lot of hurt, pain, and suffering, but I hope the lessons are twofold. Number one, the Boy Scout battle cry, be prepared. For God's sakes, you don't buy toilet paper when you're almost out. You buy toilet paper when you're down to your last 200 rolls. It's just a tip from the guitar player. But you have to have adequate sustenance, medical supplies, fire extinguishers, firewood in case your power goes out, or a generator and fuel. Everybody's been through a blizzard, an ice storm, and a tornado, and a flood, and a hurricane, and hardships. So learn from those mistakes. But more importantly, guys, probably going to the very core of why we're here today. And you see, I'm grabbing my head because I don't understand the abandonment of the American responsibility to participate in this blood and guts paid for experiment in self-government, sacred experiment in self-government. We the people, too many of us, not me, and nobody I know, well, I know a few, we so abandon our duty to hold our elected employees' feet to the constitutional accountability fire that we allowed past administrations to give the life and death control of our pharmaceuticals, antibiotics, and medicine to the evil, rotten, tyrannical, communist Chinese. You can't explain that even to Michael Moore or Ozzy Osbourne, no matter how drug-addled you might be. You cannot explain how the United States government, and we the people allowed our government to give such control to the communist Chinese. What's next? John Wayne Gacy in charge of preschool? I mean, this is insanity. So those are the two lessons. Pay more attention, watch what your elected employees are doing, and don't let them do stupid, illegal, corrupt things.
So I love that topic, and it's one that we haven't talked about before. And it's the fact that we don't build our Tomahawk missiles and our bullets and our ammo. China doesn't build that for us. But
unbelievable.
But even for the rest of the military machine, like our hospital ships and our hospitals and all of those sorts of things, those are all built in China, and they're just in time order, and we have essentially no strategic reserve. And I think that's the kind of resilience that we really need to build back into our military and our government.
This is a wake-up call for so many of us, and there are a lot of my friends who are moms, and they're just busy taking their kids to and from school, and we certainly have done that. Our son Rocco is 30 now, and we've been through all of that before, and now it's time to focus on us, and that's the role that we're playing. But for those parents who have kind of lost track of what's going on in the world and living off the land and become so complacent with going to the grocery store to have everything there for them, freshly wrapped in plastic and basically served up to a platter, I think a lot more people are going to be returning to living off the land and back to our roots as God intended.
I hope that lesson is learned, but boy, oh boy, I hope people come to my Facebook, because there's a lot of really smart people on my Facebook. The same people who protested in Michigan recently, and the people who raise hell and are. The number one job of an American is to be suspicious of all things government and bureaucracies.
Trust but verify, as Ronald Reagan said.
Well, I don't even, at this point, I don't trust,
yeah,
and
true.
I demand verification.
You know,
So, yes, you're right. Just to think that not just our medical supplies and our pharmaceuticals and our antibiotics, in the hands of, what would you put in the hands of a communist? Who trusts a communist to do anything right? So thank God for President Trump, because we've got energy independence when all past administrations, Bush and Clinton and Bohama, they said, yeah, I can't get energy independence. Well, yes, we've got energy independence. Now we are pushing the great president. We need ammo independence, we need military independence, we need missile independence, we need bomb independence, we need power and authority independence, and we need medical, pharmaceutical, and antibiotic. We need total, and that's the thing about the Nugent family. We are totally independent. The whole world can just blow up, and we've got oxygen masks, and it's not because we're paranoid. I don't have fire extinguishers because I'm afraid a fire might break out. I have fire extinguishers because I've known that fires have broken out. We have a spare tire, we have guns and ammo, we have bulletproof vests, we have everything a person could ever need to survive, even our generator. And I know people go, well, you're a rich rock star. No. I had all of this stuff when I had nothing. I didn't buy tattoos. I didn't have body parts pierced. I didn't buy drugs and alcohol and tobacco. I bought supplies to provide for my family and my neighbors. And that's why the hippies and the dirtbags out there think I'm a radical, because I'm radically independent and prepared to help my fellow man.
So let me then address. I kind of biting at the bit to say something. So usually,
please. I apologize, kind of, for being so vociferous.
So I'm from Michigan, and a few years ago, 10 years ago, I interviewed you and at a show, and you admonished me because I had mentioned that I was a Michiganian or a Michigander. And
Michigander. I say Michigander.
Yeah. So Uncle Ted convinced me that I was a Michiganiac in about that quick. And it's not that I'm so easily swayed, it's that you turned a light on me. And it made me realize, with all that's been going on, and I've lived down in Florida, and we're pretty open, right? So we have our governor has kept things fairly open. As a retiree, my life hasn't changed all that much.
DeSantis, great governor.
Yeah, it's a good program here. So it was either here or Texas, and I chose here. So Joe sent me this morning a post that you put on your site, on your Facebook site yesterday, and you were talking about Gretchen Whitmer and the really over-the-top, overbearing action that she took on Michiganders, and the Michiganiac in me came out in full force when I read this. I could barely get up and put my pants back on. I will tell you, I was over the top, and I said to Joe, that's what we need to lead with, because this is such an important message that we're giving away our civil liberties. The other day I was listening to one of these Cuomo speaks, as he imitates the president in New York with these daily briefings. And he said something that really troubled me. And I'm not radical by any means, right? I'm, pretty libertarian.
Well, I'll help you get into the radical mode, but go ahead.
Yeah, and that's why I'm bringing this up. So, and again, so both of my kids live in Michigan. They're both living there, and they, my daughter works from home. My son is a professional photographer. He's completely out of business. He doesn't even get a check. He checked yesterday. The IRS said, you're not eligible. He's like, what the fuck? What do you mean I'm not eligible? He said to me. Apologize for the language.
No, I love the language. I'm I'm from Detroit. You'll be okay.
Yeah. So what really bothered me was when Cuomo said, they said, well, what's going to happen when all this is done? He said, well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we sanitize everything. So every park bench in Central Park is going to be sanitized. And I thought to myself, so if you're going to get rid of all of the germs, how are our kids going to be able to defend themselves biologically? When I was a kid like you in Michigan, I played out in those woods. I remember I caught spinal meningitis when I was a kid. I was about 12 years old in Michigan, and we lived in Westland. And the doctor said, that I got it naturally. I got it from playing out in the woods. Now, it didn't kill me. I'm pretty sure I'm never going to get that again. But I'm thinking, when they take away your right to buy paint so that you have something to do in your lockdown, or they take away your right, but you can buy pot and you can buy booze, what is going on our planet?
And you can't go to church services. I mean, there's obviously an ulterior motivation going on, and there's something else happening that it's really, to me, it seems like it's all about control.
Well, what you're talking about, you know, and I've mastered the cuteness of metaphorical outrage. And when you said Michigander, because we've always called ourselves Michiganders, as we continued to slide down the slippery slope into dependency and left-wing politics. So in my never-ending effort and accomplishment of destroying all things status quo, because all things status quo suck. You can't identify something status quo that has been beneficial for freedom or quality of life. That's why Donald Trump got elected. He's not presidential because all these fake presidential past so-called commanders-in-chief, I don't know how they qualified, quite honestly, and we can get into their corruption, their criminal behavior. But Donald Trump was not presidential. He's a shit kicker. He's a street guy. He's a working hard, playing hard. Have you ever seen so much energy in your life? I thought I was energized. So getting to the Michigander versus Michiganiac, I'd like to think that when people attack me for being radical, I merely share with them what they obviously missed about history, is that there is nothing more radical in the history of the human experience than to dare experiment in self-government, to dare meet the king's punks at Concord Bridge when they came to disarm us and cut the punks in half with our muskets and using tactics from the woods and the swamps, boy, do I relate, against a bunch of robotic British puppets under the tyranny of a king. And we said, we don't believe in kings. We don't believe in emperors. We don't believe in despots. We don't believe in any man controlling this man. This man was given gifts from God. I have truth, logic, and common sense coursing through my veins, especially since I've been clean and sober for 71 years. And that clean and sober radar, that situational awareness that my bow hunting stealth and prowess taught me. And you alluded to it, Steve. You got to let kids play. You got to let them scrape their knees. You got to let them get dirt and grime and a little bit of muskrat feces on their hands. That's where immune systems come from. If you sanitize the world for your kid, you've got a pussy in your family. A spineless, weak, dependent crybaby. And so when someone says Michigander, I went, no. I remember real Michiganders when we were rugged individuals. We were independent. We were entrepreneurs. We took risks. We were the man in the arena. We tried stuff that was almost impossible. We fell to the ground, but we got back up, dusted ourselves off, and we tried harder. That's the foundation. You go to my Facebook right now, and there's a statement from a guy, my sister Kathy up in Irons, Michigan, shared it with me. It says, I think it's titled, "I Talked to a Man Today." And he was a World War II vet. And even though it might be metaphorical, I've talked to these guys. I've held the hand of a 90-year-old Omaha beach survivor and a Normandy beach. I'll cry for you right here on this damn Zoom we're doing right now, because that emotion that those guys gifted me with, it makes me stand up to the Gretchen Whitmer jackbooted thuggery no matter where I find it. That's why I got in trouble with the Secret Service, even though they were embarrassed to have to come and check out what I said when I said, if this punk ass Barack Obama gets elected again, I'll either be dead or in jail. Because I was dealing with ranchers and farmers who were being jackbooted because they captured rainwater in a barrel. It was against the law to catch rainwater in a barrel in Oregon. I mean, I could give you examples. So I know I'm right. I know that self-evident truth is not an opinion or a presumption. And now we're finding out that people who've been pussified and de-spined and crybaby. They think that, you know, superfluous, indulgent, irresponsible consumerism is the basis of life. You got kids who are up to debt to their ass with school loans, and they're drinking rich man Starbucks, $6 a cup of coffee. Hey, you asshole, you're in debt. You can't spend money like that. But if you tell them that, is, oh, he's a racist, or he's mean, or he's hateful. No, I'm trying to teach you a lesson here. So that's what Shemane and I live by, and I don't mean to, you know, dominate, but I'm so passionate about this stuff. Shemane has much more interesting stuff to say than I do, but I know that's why you guys pursued that, because if you do monitor my Facebook, you'll see the ultimate shit kicker who understands why our founding fathers wrote down self-evident truth. Because the king can kiss my ass. I'll choose my religion. I'll gather when I want to gather. I have privacy in my own home, and I also get to keep and bear arms. Fuck you.
And you're talking about a really important topic, which is people learning some self-reliance and people accepting some personal responsibility, which is very important. It's a very important part of that, is you not only have the freedom to conduct different actions and do what you want and say what you want, but you also take the responsibility for what you say. And that's very important. And
yeah, freedom is important, but I don't want to exercise my indulgent, irresponsible freedom if it harms others. I've always said you can do whatever you want, but if you like to shit in the river, you can't do it upstream from us, because your shit's going to come downstream, and I got to deal with your stupidity. You need to self-control yourself so that your freedom exercises don't infringe on ours. I'm going to cut Shemane loose here, because she was not a hunter or a fisherman or a gun gal when she met me. I fixed it in about 18 seconds. And she has taught so many women that being able to identify the source of your food and medicine and clothing and shelter, going back to the Aboriginal Native American lifestyle, she is the best at educating people that it's not just the mystical flight of the arrow to kill dinner, it's the mystical flight of the arrow to be respectful to God's gifts, to put the arrow where you want, and you can put your life where you want. Share with them, Shemane, the baptism into, you know, you were a city gal, and she was the motocross champ. She was the state swimming champ. So she was already a dangerous woman. But then she found guns, aim small, miss small marksmanship, and the mystical flight of the arrow. And she is the best educator to otherwise citified people, not just women, but all kinds of people, because the guys love to listen to her. In the world of self-sufficiency, which a whole lot of people may have to face here in the not too distant future.
Well, I have been blessed to have an excellent archery instructor, and I kind of learned backwards. I learned all about the gracefulness of archery, and being within 15 to 20 yards of an animal, for me, made that hunt a spectacular experience. It was like a mind, body, spiritual experience. And to be able to provide pure, lean sustenance for my family, and to have that encounter, was like a whole new, you know, world for me. And since I grew up a tomboy, I used to race motocross, and I was a state champion swimmer 2 times in Michigan. And I just loved being outdoors. It kind of made sense. And then I got sick. We both got sick from toxic mold exposure in our home that was once on MTV Cribs. Between the walls, we never saw anything. We just kept getting sicker and
really
sicker.
Sick. 2001, 2002. Yeah.
So I realized that I became my own investigative sleuth. And I think that's what's most important for you guys, for each and every person out there. What we do, if we choose to eat venison and it works for us, there are certain things that you can't compromise. But if you go on the keto diet or the Atkins diet or whatever diet it is, you got to figure out what helps you become healthiest. But we acknowledge and we adhere by living off the land. And I think more and more people are looking to see, wow, that's the grass, that's the original grass fed. You know, how you pay more at Whole Foods and grocery stores for grass-fed beef. Well, we've been eating that all of our lives. So.
You know,
Extract, baby.
I was going to say that, you know, that's interesting that you mentioned that, because I was watching a report that Dr. Oz was doing, and he was talking about how people will spend $200 on a pair of jeans, but they won't spend $20 on a quality piece of meat or a good, you know, food that's good for them. And he said they've really got their priorities all mixed up, because those jeans mean nothing, but what you put in your body means everything. I went to Joe's house in Hawaii a couple months ago, and I was cooking something, and he's like, I said, I think I was gonna fry something up, and I said, hey, Joe, do you have like cooking oil? And he goes, dude, he goes, we have some avocado oil there. He goes, it's good for you. That's what you want to be eating, not that shit that you're gonna get, you know. And it really clicked in me that it's not because he lives in Hawaii and that's the way that they eat. It's that he's chosen like a path of how he wants stuff, what he wants to put in his body. So it's really important. And that goes to those choices that you talk about, is being able to make sense of what, you know, too many people just see the commercial and they go, I got to have that, like kids do.
Well,
I got to have that cereal, right?
Unfortunately, we learned the hard way. I've been teaching group fitness classes since 1980, so I've always tried to be healthy. But I do like Haagen-Dazs and Fritos and things like that, but I think everything in moderation. And when we got sick, I was diagnosed with having pre-emphysema, and Ted and I both had 4 different types of mold in our bloodstream. So when you get backed into a corner and you have to just try and fight and struggle to keep your head above water, I think it happens in every area of life. There's something that always brings us to our knees. And those of us who have experienced physical trauma in the form of either, you know, accidents or emotional trauma too, when you start fighting for your life and your health, you can't go back. You can't go back to, you know, not eating avocado oil and not having avocados and fresh fruit and fresh vegetables and pure lean venison.
I got to tell you, you know, during this quarantine, we really love going to quality restaurants. We don't go that often. We don't go as often as my manager, Doug Banker. I think he goes every night because he's a bachelor. And a lot of people do that, but I love a good chef. I really revere someone who handles that flesh and those vegetables and all those wonderful ingredients. But I'm going to tell you, Joe and Steve, you'd be hard pressed to find any restaurant anywhere that competes with our average daily meal, because we eat natural, pure, organic venison that we killed ourselves. We know where that animal lived. I know that Shemane is the greatest bow hunter in the world. When she hits an animal, sharpen your knife, because it's dead right now. She waits for the perfect shot. And how you kill that animal, it indicates your respect and reverence for God's miraculous renewable creation. We wrote a book called Kill It and Grill It, because a lot of people were, you know, just the lunatic fringe. Not a lot of people. I guess the lunatic fringe is a lot of people. They hated me because I murdered innocent animals. And then all of a sudden the organic trend started catching on, and as they attacked me for, you know, stabbing a deer in the heart with a sharp stick, which is perfect, by the way. It's the last perfect thing you can do. They realized that I have more energy than any rocker. I'm kind of cocky, and it's entertaining in many ways, unless you're on the receiving end of my truth, logic, and common sense crowbar, which is even more entertaining to those who get the truth, logic, and common sense. But all of a sudden, and now with the phenomena of Facebook and social media, people are gaga to get a healthier diet, and they're starting to read the ingredients on their standard diet, and they go, I can't pronounce any of these ingredients, and it doesn't look like food. But Shemane and Ted Nugent just go wild celebrating and promoting the perfection of ducks and geese and squirrels and rabbits and grouse and woodcock and dove and sandhill cranes, Michigan, doves, Michigan, sandhill cranes, Michigan, bear meat, cougar meat, the sacred venison from all these wild creatures. It's the best diet in the world, and it's the most beneficial activity to produce quality air, soil, and water by managing with value that wildlife habitat that is the only source of quality air, soil, and water. And even if you've been on LSD most of your life, once they stop for a few days, all of a sudden they go, I think Nugent's right. I think they are renewable. Yes, he's right. They do have babies every year. Yes, he was right. The ground doesn't expand, but the wildlife populations do. Thanksgiving is in November. Organic, natural food. Nugent's been right all along. I was an idiot for attacking him. So and I don't need that comeuppance. I don't need, that doesn't bring me, well, I was going to say it doesn't bring me any satisfaction, but I actually like to see assholes grovel a little bit when they realize they were stupid and I was correct. So we really get a lot of people to get back to the land. I live the life of Cochise and Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse, especially Crazy Horse, and the great Aboriginal lifestyle of hands-on conservation. And it's very contagious if you would just put your hate and denial on standby and listen to the clear, inescapable science of harvesting the surplus, that there will always be a surplus if we manage wild ground to produce quality air, soil, and water. It will also produce eternal venison and sacred flesh all together now. Duh. And they're starting to wake up to this. I'm very proud of that. And again, nobody promotes it better than Shemane, because I'm a little obnoxious, which I think is a gift. And she's just damn beautiful and sensible. So I think it's the yin and yang. Of course, she's the yang, I'm the yang.
Well, it's
my
really,
wife also clearly explains what I meant afterwards when I say something with a lot of passion. She walks it back for me. So Shemane, please continue. I have like several questions I want to ask. Can I jump in?
Go for it.
We're game.
I have to wrap in a few minutes.
Oh yeah, she's got a thing.
Yeah.
In fact, she's got a wonderful book. It's called 4 Minutes to Happy. Be happier, healthier, and live the life of your dreams by the Queen of the Forest, Shemane Nugent. And she's doing a book promotion. And I'm going to tell you, women cry their eyes out, and men. We had a bunch of hunters here. They read the book and they went, it's so obvious, but I somehow missed it. So get this book. It's Shemane's wonderful book that will transform the quality of your everyday life. I promise you.
I'm actually doing a women's empowerment group online, and I'm going to do it. So you need
this computer, don't
you? So that I need this computer. But I'm going to be doing it every few months, because there are so many women who tend to put the needs of themselves last, and they cater to other people first. And then they wake up one day when the kids are gone and they've done all the cooking and cleaning, and they go, well, what about me? And a lot of women don't know, at certain stages of their lives, number one, what it takes to be happy. Number two, believe it or not, they don't know how to be happy. They don't know what it is that makes their heart sing. So in this empowerment program, I teach them how to find their voice. I teach them how to have a better relationship with God and to listen to their instincts and intuition, and how to be healthier.
And before we get up, Joe, go ahead and ask those questions, because we really want to respect your questions.
Well, so one more time, because I want to make sure our listeners hear it. Give us the name of your book again, and your book tour, anything you want to say about it.
So it's called 4 Minutes to Happy. It's available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. And this was a God-inspired event that happened to me. I wrote this book in 3 days. I literally, the words just flew off of my fingertips and onto the computer. And it's basic things. It's 4 minutes a day, little pockets of time throughout the day that you can change your life. Because if you wake up one morning, you're 40, 50, 60, whatever, and you've put on a few extra pounds and you want to lose weight, it can be overwhelming and daunting to even get started. So you might think, I'm going to sit down in front of the TV and I'll start tomorrow. But if you start at 4 minutes, if you give yourself 4 minutes a day to change your world, to start going outside and smelling the clean, fresh air and listening to sounds of nature and transforming your life in just the pockets of your time, your life will change for the better.
That is fantastic.
Thank you.
So if I can real quick, I just wanted to know if you heard about the mold issues that we've had in some of our base housing throughout the
Oh
military.
boy, I want to talk about you. And when we're done, let's get in touch because I'm actually producing a documentary about that.
We need to have a whole nother Zoom
Yeah,
cast here. She is there's nobody more knowledgeable about the pandemic of black Stachybotrys mold, especially infesting our military bases. And it's a heartbreaker and it's a crime. And she knows all about it.
Yeah, I've actually tried to reach out and I want to talk to veterans who have experienced that because, yeah, unfortunately, from experience, I know way too much about mold. For example, one mold spore is 1/100th the size of human hair, and its natural defense mechanism is to propagate 1,000,000 times. So the problem with mold is you could be exposed to it and think you're better, but because of a physical or emotional trauma in your life, that Stachybotrys mycotoxin can lie dormant in some of your organs.
It kills people, cripples people.
Just like the mold or just like the Lyme spirochete can lay dormant in your body and can reignite a month or years later.
Can you imagine Mr. Energy here struggling to get out of bed in the morning?
It was horrible.
It went on for over 1.5 years, and I thought I was dying, and I was only 50, I think, at the time, and I was like a ball of fire. But that Stachybotrys, which is the basic black killer mold that they're finding all around the country. So many people, they call Shemane, they say, I have mushrooms growing out of the wall in my basement. And do you think I have mold?
I do have a whole chapter in here that I talk about mold. And that's why I'm doing the documentary, because every day I get bombarded in a good way with questions. People are struggling. They don't know what to do. And they've run up against roadblock and obstacles and nobody's helping them.
That's why
I wanted to put it all into a documentary and share what I've learned with people.
And we keep repeating the story that's why we moved out of Michigan. Yeah. We didn't abandon Michigan. There was only one clinic that would treat us back in 2002. And it was here in Dallas, Texas. We were homeless. We lost our beautiful miracle palace on the lake in Jackson County, my dream wildlife paradise. And we couldn't even go back in the house. It was so toxic. So while we were being treated, and Michigan wouldn't acknowledge the #1 game bird in the world, even though we produce more doves than all of pheasant, woodcock, grouse, and quail combined, but you couldn't, they called it a songbird, which is a lie. And you can't do this and you can't do that. I can't drop corn. I can't do this. So I said, wait a minute. Michigan's turning into a suburb of San Francisco. We're in Texas being treated. All the things I want to do in life are legal in Texas. Let's stay in Texas. But I still fight constantly to get real Michigan back, because the real shit kickers, Michiganiacs, are alive and well. And you saw them yesterday in Lansing.
Hey, can I ask, can I divert for a second, because I don't want to miss this opportunity, because you are, in my opinion, and I think in millions and millions and millions of people worldwide's opinion, one of the greatest rock and roll guitarists that has ever.
Well, thank you. My dogs agree.
Well, so, and I'm sure there's many guitarists that would disagree who are competing against you, but I don't think there's a competition there. So you got me through many high school dances where I went, I can't listen to this, and I had to go outside and we put in the tape, and the rest is history. So last week Steve Farmer died, and it made me think of. So I started looking back at some Amboy Duke stuff and listening. And it brought me back to kind of the seminal Ted Nugent, which was Migration. And I listened to that again before this interview, and it made me think how versatile. I'm kind of brown nosing you here, but how versatile and brilliant that was when you were a kid.
It really was a musical uncharted territory. But I got to tell you, Andy Solomon and Rick Lober on the keyboards, world-class virtuosos as teenagers. Dave Palmer and Gregor Rama on drums and bass, teenage musical monsters. Steve Farmer, a brilliant musical mind until he increased the poisoning of that mind with drugs, and it was really a heartbreaker. That's why I had to get rid of him. But I was so surrounded by incredible geniuses, and there's no word in the English language to identify the depth of possession that I was owned by the music. I played my guitar all the time, just like today. I play my guitar. I know that there's notes that God hasn't authorized yet, but you stop and think that I was 18 years old. I wrote the bass line, but Greg Arema took it into uncharted territory, and Dave on the drums, the groove, and Andy on the keyboards. So I was a musical maniac, Michiganiac. And so it was about work ethic. It was about perseverance and that man in the arena, because I made a stupid noise. But Paul Schaefer, one of the greatest musical forces in the world, when I first jammed on David Letterman, he came off the bandstand, and he came over and he hugged me. He goes, "Ted," and he shook me by the shoulders. And Paul's a little Canadian dude, and he shook me. He goes, "Ted, that guitar feedback note that started the solo and Journey to the Center of the Mind is the greatest musical note in the history of the world, because it was a semitone that never came home." He goes, "Where did you come up with that?" I went, millions of hours of adventure. I was like Lewis and Clark and Sacagawea on the guitar neck, as I was this morning. I played licks this morning. I went, what the hell kind of note is that? So it's about love of your dream. I imagine the greatest welders in the world did the same thing with welding. Writers, artists. It's about dedication. But thank you for that, because it's about the inspiration of those unbelievable musicians. Like right now, Jason Hartman's from Detroit on drums, Greg Smith on bass guitar. My rhythm section is every guitar player's dream, and it always has been. I attribute my musical prowess to the inspiration of better musicians than myself.
So as we kind of wrap, because I know we'd love to do this again with you if you wouldn't mind.
Let's do it, yeah, because I have a lot to say. I don't know if you noticed that.
Because this is a military, that's really kind of our audience, is the military community and that military family, which is.
So I got my M4 and my MP5 and a couple Logs rocket launchers here. I'll bring those next time.
Yeah, I like that. So I had written an article from our last interview, and this was the title of it. And this is the Marines came up with this, my Marine Corps editor. So this was for the Hawaii Marine News in 2008. And this was, can you see that?
Oh, that's awesome.
Semper Fi, motherfucker.
So
hell yes. I'm like Chesty Puller with a Gibbs.
Well, you know, my dad was a Marine at the Chosin Reservoir, and Chesty Puller was his commanding officer, his regimental commander, when they were doing the landing at Incheon. And I remember him telling me when he was home on leave after basic training, and he got a telegram, and it said, you have orders to Camp Pendleton, the 1st Marine Division. You will report to Chesty Puller's outfit. And my dad said he shit his pants. He was 17 years old, and he said, "You know what, Steve?" He goes, "We learned in basic training that Chesty Puller had the highest attrition rate of any commanding officer in the Marine Corps." And he said, "I'm going there." So he goes, "So I was convinced I was going to die." And then
Chesty Puller was the ultimate military. You win. You go to battle to destroy the enemy, and that's what we did in World War II. It's what we didn't do in Vietnam, and that's the only way to go into battle, is total victory. And that's the rules of engagement. Now we're going to wrap it up, but Joe and Steve, thank you very much, and all the military families out there. I love you with all my heart and soul. But I would like to do this again, because we need to talk more about the Amboy Dukes music, and we need to talk more about Chesty Puller.
Right on. We're here for you. We would love to do it.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We want to be respectful of your time and let you get to your next thing. We appreciate it. Obviously, we want people to go and check out Ted's Facebook page. And Shemane, anything you want us to?
Everybody can check out my social media. I'm on Instagram Live every day at 2:00 Central. It's just my name, Shemane, Shemane. And I'm posting some interviews about some things on YouTube, and I'm also on Facebook. I'm all over the place, but my website is Shemane Nugent rocks.
Would you mind?
My Facebook is wall-to-wall warriors. All the warriors are welcome to my Facebook because you will never be so cherished and appreciated than on my Facebook.
Can we provide it to Linda and maybe you guys can push it out for us?
Absolutely.
Guaranteed. In fact, I would not let you get away with not doing that.
Well, we're here to unfiltered present you, and that's what we were hoping for. I told Joe, I said, I spoke to Ted a few years ago and I still haven't recovered.
Well, if you're not having fun with me, you're weird. You know what I mean? Who could not enjoy positive energy and spirit? And I didn't invent the middle finger, but I did perfect it, and I don't charge royalties. So have a good day.
Thank you, guys. God bless.
Thank you very much.
God bless America. God bless the military and their families and the great President Donald Trump.
Semper Fi.
God bless you both.
You should have been prepared, now you're gonna pay. Yeah, everybody knew it, red skies in the night, now you're running scared. Hey! Here comes a revolution, time is running out, but I got the solution. Fill your hands, you son of a bitch. I'm caught, I'm locked, and I'm ready to rock. Suicidal curse, never run away. Our big brother's coming with the fire in his eyes. Burn, baby, burn. Hey! Right now is the time to make up your mind. Time to make a stand. It's time to put a gun in your hand. I'm caught, I'm locked, and I'm ready to rock. I am caught, I am locked, ready to rock. Ready to rock, boys.
Load 'em up, boys. Where's Davy Crockett when we need